So we are recording, we are live streaming. People are starting to come in. How's everybody doing? We're getting started in a couple of minutes. Let's see what we got. So we have Isaac, Mark, good name, Mark.
Hi guys, how you doing?
Good, good, good. How about yourself?
Yeah, not bad, not bad. Just thought I'd jump on. I'm in a hotel doing quarantine at the moment, so
Where are you coming back from?
it's not coming back from anywhere. I'm actually departing next week to go out to Guyana.
Ah, okay,
So
okay.
I've got to do 6 days quarantine before I go out there as part of my work.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you for turning up. We're going to be starting literally in the next 30 to 40 seconds. So I'm just going to get ready to get started. Okay, so here we go. We just hit the top of the hour, 7 o'clock, exactly on my clock. Thank you, everybody, for turning up. As I said, what this is all about today and what you'll have seen in the email is like some of the biggest mistakes that we're seeing in the property sourcing space. The reason why we put this together is because over the last year, we've generated just over 3,000 property leads from investors to people that want to sell their properties, whether it be below market value, whether it be they want to sell their property or in some sort of distress scenario, landlords that want to get their properties managed. And we've seen so many different things that have occurred, like with trying to get the deal closed, getting the deal closed. And we've seen some of our clients working on different deals and different things that have come up. And there's obviously more than 5, and we'll probably do something else on a different 5 and stuff like that. But these are some of the ones that we thought were the most poignant ones that you'll be able to get the most value out of. Now, one of the things that I've been doing lately is that rather than just consuming content, like just by just listening to it and that's it, what I would say is get a pen and paper, get like a device, whatever it is that you use, right? And just take some notes. And even if this is stuff that you might say you know stuff about already, just look for something that you can discover, something that's profound, something that's different, that allows you to say, give you that little edge or that little different advantage that you'll be able to use when you're out there building your property business, right? So take notes, take as much notes as you can, and then at the end, what we'll do, and don't worry, this is not going to be a long. What I try to do, I try to keep this like short and punchy, and then at the end, we'll ask you some questions which will help really anchor in anything that you've discovered, anything that you learned from it. So try to make sure you're taking some notes. And no, I'm not going to ask you if you want to come on live, you can, but like it's more about just answering some questions at the end, just to really anchor in what was the key things that you got from this, and then actions that you're going to actually take moving forward into it, so that it's not just, you know, like when you get like an audio book or something and you're driving in the car and you listen to something and you're like, oh, that was a really good like insight. But then you keep listening, and by the time you get to your destination, you've forgotten that insight and you've got no real way of really implementing that or using that. And it's just sort of floating around in your head. By answering some of these questions at the end, the design of it is to help you anchor in that discovery, and then actually make a decision on what actions you're going to take to actually make a difference with it. And I think that's a better way to consume content than just sort of listen to it, mindlessly, in a sense. All right. So The topic for today is the 5 biggest property sourcing mistakes. There's tons, but these are the 5 that we've chosen. They're not exclusively the only ones out there, but this is what we're going to go into. So the first one that I want to talk about, I'm just going to get straight into this, guys. So the first one I want to talk about is not knowing your investment objectives before you invest. Okay, so typically when you're going out there, like how you plan to actually, the first thing you've got to do is you've got to plan. You've got to say to yourself, okay, what if you don't know the route that you're going, like how are you gonna get to that particular place, right? So when you begin your investing, you've got to make sure that you have a clear idea of what it is that you want to achieve. Like it's basic 101 goal setting, right? Like you've got to say to yourself, you know what, I've got a goal of within the next 6 months, I want to be making this amount of money. And then that goal, so let's say you want to be making 10K a month, for example, right? Then, or even in a year. And that goal says, how many properties do I need for that? What do the properties need to be generating on a monthly basis? Between them, what types of property strategies am I going to be implementing? Am I going to be selling to people? How many do I need to sell? Like, you've got to break that stuff down. And I speak to so many people that they have like these lofty goals. There's nothing wrong with having goals of what they want to do, but they've got no strategy as to how they're going to achieve these things. And when you ask a few questions and really try to sort of look into what is the reason, how are you looking to actually make that happen, it starts to fall apart. Like it's like you'll get someone say, yeah, I want to do a flip, and so on and so forth. Okay, have you got the money for a deposit? No, have you got investors? No, not yet. And it's like, how are you going to do that? What is the plan around that? And so make sure you have a plan, and think through all different things. Even if you don't have these things yet, then put a plan together to get certain things, get investors into place, get different things into place, but make sure that you know what your investment objective is before you actually invest or before you go into a project, right? So it's super important. Again, knowing why you're spending and how long you'll actually be invested in a project is super important as well. And really just working out, like, is this, whatever it is that you're going into, is this something that you're going to be invested in and making a profit from right now or within the next few weeks or several months? So for example, if you're a property sourcer, is it something that where you're just selling on a deal, and as soon as you get the deal in, you'll make the money from it? So is that what the situation is, or is it a scenario where you're maybe doing a JV with an investor or somebody that you're working with, and the project can take a little bit longer? Being aware of those things is super important, because you've got to plan out what other expenses are going to be involved in that project as well, right? So just be aware of those things, and as I say, making sure that you understand like what your objectives are, plan things out is super important. Like, and it comes across as kind of an obvious thing, but sometimes common sense is not common practice. And what I see is that people are not necessarily always doing that. So answering questions like this is critical to developing a property strategy that actually is going to lead you to the goals that you want to do, right? So that's one of the biggest mistakes that people do, is they don't have a clear goals, they don't have clear objectives on what it is they want to achieve. So the next thing, and this is massive, okay, is basically allowing the way you feel about a property opportunity to take precedent over your investment rationality or the numbers. Okay, so making irrational decisions, yeah, by letting your feelings take control. Now, I don't want to take anything away from feelings, because the feelings are important as part of your process in doing deals, right? But do not let them take precedence over the cold hard numbers of an opportunity. And what you've got to remember is that, like, so for example, if you're purchasing a property for yourself, there's feelings that come into play. You look at that property and you say to yourself, like, I can see the kids like running around here. I can see you got barbecues in the back, and you connect with that property because it's a personal property for you. That's fine when it's your own property, right? But when But when we're looking at this and we're coming at it from an investment perspective, it is a whole different beast. And using feelings is not wrong. It's just making sure that they don't take precedence over the numbers, over like sound investment rationality, if that makes sense. So it's important that you don't just get caught up in, oh, I really like this property and so on and so forth, because it's not for you, it's for your tenant, it's for an investor. So the key thing you've got to make sure is that the numbers stack, that person can make money out of that deal, that it fits the criteria of the investor that you're trying to work with, right? That's what your focus needs to be on, versus any sort of like personal connection that you may have towards that particular property or anything like that, right? So you've got to, and this ties back into knowing your objectives again as well, right? Because you've got to consider like what are your financial goals and whether this property can assist you or does it actually impede you in achieving that, right? And if you're working for investors, then you've got to make sure that this property ticks all the boxes. And what you don't want to do is you don't want to fudge numbers where you offload that property to an investor, but because the numbers didn't stack, that now you've done a bad thing, and now you've messed up your relationship with that person. That person's not going to be coming back to you. So you want to make sure that you've really done your due diligence, and we'll get into due diligence in a bit as well. But you want to make sure you've really sort of dug in and make sure you understand what's going on here, and not just you feel it will be good. You want to look at things like what's going on within that area. Like, is there places to be able to get? Like, is there places near stations where you can get into main cities and stuff like that? So for people that have got jobs, like is it close to good shopping centres? Is there hospitals? Is there good schools around? You want to think about those things. Also, you want to do the research and work out: is this property likely to rent well? Don't just think, yeah, it will rent well. Based on what? Look at like supply and demand. Use sites like Spare Rooms, like speak with letting agents and so on and so forth, and get a read on what the area is about. Not just speak to one, speak to a number of them and get a read on what the area is about. Okay, so yeah, super important. Like, don't let your feelings and emotions take precedence over your investment decisions. So again, use your feelings because they are important, but your emotions, but don't let them take control over, like, when you've got hard numbers. If something doesn't stack up, even though you might think, oh, this could be a great opportunity and stuff like that, or it's got this many bedrooms, I should be able to make. If the numbers don't work, they don't work, and you have to sometimes move on and let things out. And that ties into one of the things that we always bang on about here at Property Sourcing Secrets, is that deal flow is key. Your ability to consistently generate deals and deal opportunities is key, because if you've got so many deals coming at you on a consistent basis, you're not emotionally tied to any one deal. So that means you're not trying to make a deal work or trying to make the numbers work when they don't work. Because when you do that, typically what's going to happen is you're going to find yourself in a situation where you actually lose money. And who wants to do that, right? Who wants to do that? So make sure that you, like, deal flow is super important in the whole thing, because if you've got a ton of deals that you've got to work with, you can say, you know what, I can let that go. That deal is not perfect for me. That deal doesn't work for me. What the owner wants for that doesn't match what's necessary. I'm not going to try and make that work. I'm going to let that one go. And I've got these other deals to work on. So deal flow is super important. So yeah. But again, make sure you don't let your feelings and emotions take over the rationality of making sound investment decisions. All right. The next one is too much haste or too much hesitancy, or another way of putting it is, when should you actually pull the trigger, right? So basically what this is about is that you've got two sides, you've got two opposing sort of angles. You've got, like, let's say point A and point B, right? Or two different axes, right? And on one end, you've got somebody that is super eager, like They see the deal, they want to make the deal happen. They'll do anything to make the deal happen, and they don't necessarily look at the details or do the due diligence necessary, and they miss out on certain things, or they let like a slick talking like estate agent or something like that talk over things and miss certain things, and they go into a project, and then once they've signed contracts and they've put deals into place, things start to come up. Ugly things start to come up that cost money, right? And I've experienced this myself. It's not nice. I've seen other people experience it in really bad ways, like wiping them out completely. And especially when they get involved in something and they didn't consider certain expenses, right? And they was just too hasty, yeah. And so that's definitely something that you want to be aware of, right? But on the other extreme is where there's too much hesitancy, where for example, you just want, you're looking at the numbers, you're reanalyzing, you're putting it into a spreadsheet, you're putting it back into a calculator, you're doing so much analysis, like to the extent that, yeah, like it's you miss opportunities. You don't actually move forward on certain opportunities. You become this professional in like being able to analyze deals, and you know all the numbers, and this should do it, this should do that, and that should do this, and so on and so forth. But you actually miss actually taking up an opportunity. So really what we're looking for is being somewhere in the middle of these two extremes. And it's something that you get an understanding of as you do more and more deals, right? And being aware of this will help you more not get into that situation. But it's always going to happen, no matter how much. Like sometimes you might jump a little bit too early on something you didn't pick up on. But the fact that you're thinking about it, hopefully you'll be more in the middle, because it is important to do your due diligence, right? You don't want to do too much of it that you're not or overdo it. Sorry, there's never too much. You don't want to overdo it so that you're not actually taking action, or you're never ready to actually pull the trigger, right? So it's having that happy medium, okay, to actually make stuff happen. So again, it's knowing when to pull the trigger, and that comes from really sort of looking at like what's going on with that particular property, what's going on within the area. It ties into things like due diligence, which we're going to go into in a minute. It ties into you understanding your goals as well, right? Because if you understand your goals, it should be easier for you to see, okay, this property matches what it is that I'm trying to do. And then you look at all the different factors around the property. And in another session, we'll go into things like looking at like the actual property itself, floor plans, any structural issues, other things that can come up that you're not aware of, that are not sort of like obvious on the surface, and ways to sort of uncover these things so that you're not getting yourself into trouble when you're doing this stuff. Again, and I always tie back to this, having a ton of deal flow puts you in a situation where if the deal doesn't match up to what you want, then you can leave that deal, move on, get into another deal until you find a deal where you can pull the trigger. Because if you haven't got that much deal flow, if you've maybe got one viable opportunity that you're working on, like what happens is you're either overanalyzing that one viable opportunity, and when it gets taken by somebody else, you've got nothing, and then you're scrambling to find another deal, or because you've only got one deal, you're too hasty, you take too much, you're too eager on that particular deal, and you potentially make a mistake, and you get involved in something that can end up costing you a lot of money. When you've got a lot of deals, you've got a lot of deals to evaluate. You're getting more experience as you're speaking to different people, seeing different things come up and stuff like that, which is going to help you across all of your deals. All right. So yeah, knowing when to pull the trigger, like not knowing when to pull the trigger is the mistake, where you have too much haste or too much hesitancy. All right. So the next thing to be thinking about is like, or the next thing that people don't think about, or they shy away from, is that they run away from the numbers, or they fail to do correct due diligence. And I don't understand this, like, because it's like, if you, by not doing this stuff, like, you're literally just saying, it's like starting a business with no proper business plan. Like, it's I'm trying to think of nice ways to put it. Like, it's not, it's very stupid. It's stupid. Like, you have to do due diligence, right? Like, if you're actually hoping to make money from your investments, it's critical that you understand your numbers. Critical. And it's to the nuanced point of it, right? Like, it's not just like understanding what's going on the surface. Like, you have to understand everything that's going on within that, what other expenses, what hidden expenses could be involved, and stuff like that, right? Now, if you don't know this stuff, you don't know what to be looking for, go and get trained on it. Go and find out what you need to be aware of, right? And get yourself into the field. And if you're not actually, and as I say, partner with someone that has experience if necessary, right? Like, you don't want to be coming with wrong estimates to your investors, or putting together a plan for an investor and that doesn't work, right? So working with like a sourcing agent, or even just someone that has experience that you can do a JV with, right, is super important, right? To find these really good properties. Look into the area, like, account for void periods within that area as well. Like, what could potentially go wrong? Like, have that built into your numbers, right? It's super important to look at these different things. Again, when you've got deal flow and you've got a consistent amount of leads coming in, right, you can work with people, because there's always going to be someone that has more experience than you. Right? And if you're just starting out, or you've only been doing it for a little while, there's going to be people that are out there that have got more experience than you. And if you've got deal flow, you can collaborate with them, and you don't have to go out and pay these big, massive sort of like training fees to learn from people, to get mentored by people, if you've already got deal flow. So by you having deal flow, that allows you to go and work with someone that's an expert in the space, someone that's experienced, and you can then work with them and build that experience, ask questions on the job, and you split the deal with them. There's nothing wrong with splitting a deal with somebody on like your first few deals, because you've got deal flow, and actually you make money, they make money, you build a good relationship with them, and you can work with different people and build up that experience. But due diligence is super important. It comes down to a ton of different things. I'm not going to go into each individual thing, but it's just knowing that your due diligence is important. From things like, is there supply? What's the supply and demand in the area for rent? Like, what's the potential yields that property could make if you're buying a property to flip it, if you're buying a property to rent it? Like, what is the situation? It goes back to what we talked about as one of the first mistakes of knowing what your objectives are, knowing what your goals are, right, for each individual property that you're working with, and understanding the numbers and making sure that the numbers make sense. Making sure the numbers make sense, making sure it's a good area, making sure that there's good potential for people to want to rent within that area. Like, seeing if there's anything going on in that area, like looking into like the local council. Is there any plans for developments? Is there anything that's going on in that area that could make it more valuable down the line? Like, anything that could give that sort of, or anything that could hinder its ability to work out as a great property. You got to look at all of those different factors. You've got to speak to people, and you've got to work out those different things, and then you've got to take action on it. All right. So the next thing is, and this is I believe this is the fifth mistake, is choosing the wrong team. And as you build up as a property sourcer, someone that's working with investors and building a property business, right, you've got to find good people to work with. Ties again into deal flow. If you've got a ton of deal flow, you can start to collaborate and work with different people, and you'll quickly work out who's the good eggs, who's the bad eggs, who's just trying to take advantage, who doesn't bring anything to the table, right? You'll quickly work that stuff out. Yeah. And yes, you might lose a couple of deals in the play. Be less scared of that and be more focused on getting with the right people. And last week we talked about like we went into some of like the key people that you want to have from a team, like a solicitor, mortgage advisors, builders, and we went into a ton of different things, like a deal flow specialist. But some of the things you want to do in regards to making sure you're choosing the right team is check reviews for that person, like see who else has worked with them, ask questions of other people, what past projects have they worked on, like what compliances have they got in place, what accreditations have they got that you can check on, and so on and so forth. Are they official? Understand their reputation, and also use your insight. Like how is this person behaving? Do they seem eager? Do they want access to things that they shouldn't have? They shouldn't need access to. Like, what is going on with that person? Do you trust them? Do they seem a bit shifty? Work that stuff out. It's like use your instincts, but also just like try to work out what's going on with that person, right? Like, and as I say, actions speak louder than words. And as you start to work with people, you will quickly realize who's good and who's bad. And as I say, there's only so much you can do when you're choosing people, like in regards to checking them out, seeing, like getting word of mouth, like speaking to people that have worked with them before, checking out their accreditations, right? And you still could end up with a bad egg, right? But do that stuff, have things in place that allow you to be able to get out of situations if it's not working for both of you, right? So have things in place within your contracts and your agreements that allow you to get out of that situation, yeah? And yeah, like it's working with people is super powerful, right? Like I found that every business that I've done, and I'm 42 now, so like in the last 20 years, I've always found that working with people, having a team and building a team is so much more. I don't know how I would do it without having people around me, if you know what I mean, because when different things are going on, being able to just brainstorm, bounce off of different experts and so on and so forth. What do we do in this situation? What do we do here? What do we do there? It brings so much to the table, right? It really does help you think things through. And sometimes you can be in your own head and you can be sort of in a tunnel vision. And you've got to be open to be able to say, actually, there's a different path and stuff like that. So just look at those things when you're building your team. Find good people, keep good people close, get rid of bad people, yeah. And that's pretty much it, yeah. And then the next thing, yeah, is what I believe is the most important thing in property, and what I've seen to allow us to build a business in property. And it doesn't matter about whether you know about flips, development, commercial to residential, buying brick and mortar businesses, like all of that stuff, like rent to rent, HMO, serviced accommodation, below market value, all the different strategies out there, right, are completely irrelevant if you do not have the ability to consistently generate deal flow. Having landlords that want to get their properties in your hand on a consistent basis, having people that want to sell their properties coming to you and saying, what can you do? What can you offer me? Yeah. Put you in a situation where you can actually have a conversation with them, ask them questions, and then start working with your investors or invest in yourself, however it is that you want to go about it, right? If you don't have deal flow, if you don't have consistent leads, opportunities coming into you on a consistent basis, everything, all the education and stuff around property is like you it's like you're this professor, but with no ability to actually create cash, yeah, in property. So deal flow is one of the most important things. And what I find is that these other things are really important, stuff that we talked about today. Yeah? But what I find happens is, and I do research online and I speak to people, and deal flow is always something that is like a secondary thing. Or when it's taught in such an archaic way. Like, for example, begging estate agents to work with you, for example, yeah? Like, don't get me wrong, like you might be able to get a few deals off of an estate agent. And especially if you've got a ton of money or you've got a ton of credibility already, and you've got investors in place where you can take action and make stuff happen and build really strong relationships with them. But if you're just starting out, like, you're gonna find it pretty hard, right? And even if you do get out and you go on a few viewings with them, if you don't take action anytime too quickly, what will quickly happen is that they'll just stop responding to you. They'll stop working with you, right? But if you've got the ability to go direct to vendor and create this deal flow, you can work with estate agents yourself. You can instruct local estate agents. You can work with investors. You have the control. So deal flow is super important. So if you guys want to know more about how to consistently generate deal flow, yeah, just like jump on a call with us. There's loads of ways you can do it. If you're in the Facebook group, there should be like a pinned post somewhere, or within this message there's like a link, and you can go somewhere. You can book a call with us. Yeah, just do that. Just take some time, have a quick chat with us, and we'll see what sort of stuff you're doing within your property business at the moment, and we'll see how we could potentially put something together to help you generate more deal flow into your business, right? Now, what I want to do is, as I said, I didn't want to make this like a really sort of long, overbearing conversation, right? But what I do want to do is I actually want to go into some questions. Now, this is questions about what we've just gone through, okay? So, pen and papers, devices, whatever it is that you have available to you, yeah. Now, the first question is yeah, what was the main discovery that you got through this session? Like, what was that? So let's take some time, go through that. Like, what was that main discovery that you got? And it might be a few different things. So what was that? Was it something to do with the deal flow? Was it like, oh, I'm messing up where I'm too hasty, or I don't do enough due diligence, or I haven't got the right balance? What was it for you? Yeah, what stood out for you? And whether that be a number of things or not, yeah, just take a bit of time and go through that. So I'm just going to give you 30, 40 seconds or so to do that. And just take some time and sort of just go through what was that biggest discovery for you, or a number of discoveries, a number of smaller discoveries for you. Okay, now while you're doing that, as you're sort of writing that up or typing that in on your device, yeah, the discoveries that you came up with, why do you think those discoveries are significant? And I'm asking this question because I really want you to anchor in and think about, like, why is that important? Why is it what you got from it? Why is it important? Like, well, how is it going to affect your business moving forward? What is it going to do for you, right? So the first question is what discovery did you get from this session? Yeah, Malachi just put a link in there for if you guys want to book a call. Yeah, what discovery did you get from this session? Why do you think that specific discovery was significant? Yeah. So why do you think that was significant? And then what, if any, like final thoughts do you have from that? Yeah, so what discovery did you think was it? Why do you think this specific discovery was significant? And then what final thoughts came from that discovery? Like, if you just say to yourself, what was it like a final sort of like a roundup of that came from that? Or this is an additional question, like, as you sort of sit back and you sort of think about like what we went through, yeah, and so I think this is really important to do this stuff, like, rather than just take information in. As you sit back and you think about like what we went through, what is the singular, simple lesson that you got from this? Yeah. So it's just some different questions, just to get you thinking about what you just went through, and allowing you to anchor in why it's important. What did you discover? What are your final thoughts around it? What was the lesson you got from it? And then finally, what I want you to do is I want you to just really sort of say to yourself, what action, or what immediate action can I take from that? So yeah, Malachi's putting the questions in. Thanks, guys. I have another call starting now. No worries. You do your thing, Mark. Speak to you soon. Enjoy your travels. So yeah, so so what actions are you going to actually take from this discovery? Yeah, like so think about what actual steps are you going to take and list out those steps. Like, what are some things that you can actually do to make a difference? Like, moving forward, I'm going to make sure I have a checklist of everything that I should do from a due diligence perspective. Moving forward, I'm going to make sure that moving forward, I'm going to make sure that I'm focused on the numbers. I'm not letting my emotion take control. Moving forward, I'm going to make sure that my ability to generate deal flow is one of the most paramount things that I'm doing within my business. And what do I need to do to make that happen? Have a chat with Mark and Malachi, go and do some studying, whatever it is, right? What am I going to do to make that happen? Okay. So yeah, that's what I wanted you to sort of like focus on, right? So again, it's like, what did you discover from this session? And Malachi's putting them in the chat, right? So you guys can put them. Now, this is not a force thing, so that I'm going to go through. But if anybody wants to share what their discoveries was from the training, as I said, what we're going to do on a weekly basis, we're going to do these short little blasts of content. It's not going to be like hours of content. It's going to be like a little 20-25 minutes of content. But at the end, we're going to ask you some questions to anchor that in, and then we're going to look at what actions can you take to actually make something happen, and then sort of coming back on a weekly basis with the aim that you're actually taking actions every week and building yourself up on a consistent, building that momentum and that consistency. Yeah. So if anybody wants to share, put your hands up. I think if you click on like one of the dots or something like that, raise your hands. But while you're doing that, I'm going to go through like what my thought process is there. So when I think about like what the topics that we talked about, right? Like when I was starting out, definitely, I think that sometimes I would go with my gut on making certain business decisions with certain properties, and that would mess me up. So one of the things that I would get from that would be making sure that I am really looking at the numbers when it comes to that type of stuff, right? For me, the biggest discovery that I've had just over my whole journey being in this property space, right, is that deal flow is key. Without deal flow, everything else, all this other education and so on and so forth, don't get me wrong, it's all great, but it means nothing because you can't actually, it's great to have loads of information in your head, but actually putting cash flow in your pocket and in your bank account, you only can do that through having deal flow, through having the opportunities in front of you and people reaching out to your company, your brand, and wanting to work with you. That doesn't happen by accident. There's a process to that, right? So deal flow is something that's super important. And actions that I would take personally, my own actions on a consistent basis is all around how do I generate deals, because there's things that I don't know everything about property. I just don't. Like I've never tried to act like I'm this like guru or expert property investor and so on and so forth. I don't need to, because just as long as I've got deal flow, so my actions is around generating deals. Because as long as I've got deal flows, I can collaborate with people that are much smarter than me, yeah, and make money with people that are much smarter than me when it comes to property, because of my ability to consistently bring in deal flow. So the actions that I will consistently always take on a daily basis is always working on generating more deals. All right. So I don't know if we've got anybody that wants to share. If not, it's no big deal. Any questions anyway? You can just unmute yourself and come in if you want to. If not, it means I've done a great job and all your questions are answered. How are we doing, Mr. Kelly?
I think we're good. I don't think we have any questions.
Excellent. All right, great stuff. So key things to sort of focus on here is the questions that came afterwards. So really think about those things for yourself. Yeah. What was the key thing that you discovered from it? Why was that discovery significant and important? Yeah. What are your final thoughts? What is what is the lesson that you got from that specifically? Okay, what lesson did you get from it? What simple lessons did you get? And what actions are you going to take moving forward, right? So we're going to come back every week and we're going to deliver a different piece of content, and we're going to ask these same questions. Every time it's going to be these same questions around what are you going to do with this information? Because information on its own is one thing, right? But just sitting back and just taking the information in and then just living your life as normal and not doing anything with it does absolutely nothing for you. So think about what actions you're going to take, do something with it, move forward. Again, if you want to book a call to understand more about generating deal flow on a consistent basis, feel free to do so. There should be a link in the chat. Make sure you copy and paste that link, click it, book that call. Slots get taken up very quickly. It's just what it is. So if you're going to do it, make sure you make it happen. And hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Yeah, good stuff. Speak to you guys soon.
Bye for now.